Hello, Stickosaurus here, and today we are going to start work on Ryusoulger Green Helmet. What's it going to be called? Dino Fury Green? I think that's what next Power Rangers is called. So this print had a little bit of an issue. My Alpha Wise is down right now with a heating bed issue, so I'm using my new ender, and I think there's something off about it. I've been getting a lot of layer shifts at a certain height, so trying to figure out that issue, but this shifted a good bit, but it was okay enough that it was salvageable, that I feel like I could bust it in half, which I did. It probably shifted about like this much, it looked like. You know, not a ton, but it did. So it looked like it was easy enough to snap in half, so I did that. And now we are going to, well, sand the rough stuff down first so it's a little more even, and then we're going to weld it back together with a wood burning tool. We'll have to epoxy putty the front of our weld here so it looks nice. It's never going to be as nice if it printed one piece, but for me, I'll be okay with it. If it was for someone else, I probably wouldn't. Unless I talked to him first, of course. But we should be able to get this back together. And then the back printed okay. Again, I got some weird banding at like the same height, like around where it broke. It's actually pretty higher up, so that's okay. It's actually a little bit wider than... I mean, it'll be alright. We'll fix it. Putting that top on might pull it in a little bit too, for sure. But again, we'll get there, one step at a time. You can always fix anything pretty much, so I don't know what happened to that, but we'll first get this put together, and then we'll make sure it fits with the back and see what we can do. But so you're going to see how to fix a broken print. You can use the same concept for if you have a smaller printer and you have to print in multiple pieces. My first printer was a 250 by 250 by 300 monoprice printer. I still have it. It still works really well. Actually, it's the printer I've had the least problems with. And but I printed probably 4 or 5 helmets on that, and they were between like 14 to 20 pieces on some of them, and you'd weld them all together or glue them. I never had luck with glue. If you get super glue accelerant and you'll have a lot more luck, and then I'd still probably even weld the insides just to be safe. But we'll show you how to get this back together and hopefully looking good. It's good enough to put on a shelf or wear around if you want to. This will be Ryusoulger Green. Alright, so I'm sorry if that didn't show up very well. It's very hard in the lighting. It's hard to light the inside and try to hold this thing and put it back together, but we'll still have this gap in the front for right now. We just welded the inside the best I could. I might even this up here a little bit. But this was pretty bad. This is missing a good bit. It actually, here's the part that printed that was supposed to be in there. So, but again, we'll fill this in, and it shouldn't look too bad. And here's the inside. See, there's a little hole right there I gotta patch up, but this should hold. I'm gonna be honest, it'd be pretty brittle. If I drop this, it'd probably split right there again. But she should be. Boy, that was a little loose, but again, that won't be a problem once we fix it. But as you can see, it fits all together now. It should be worth finishing. So I'm gonna fill in a little bit of that, and then I'll probably do the epoxy putty for this in the chin before I rough sand this. Get a head start on trying to fill this in. Yeah, I think she's gonna turn out to be just fine. And here I'm just using 2-part epoxy sculpt, pushing it into the gap we had left over from where there wasn't any plastic to fill. Doing the sides and smoothing over it with water. This stuff's kind of like clay when you use water. You can smooth it kind of, not perfectly smooth, but smooth enough where it really reduces the sanding. Now after letting that epoxy sculpt dry for I think a day at least, you want to make sure you let this dry. It says 4 hours on the container, but it really gums up your sanding pad if you don't do it at least a day. I seem to find. So after that, I'm just hitting it with a 100 grit sandpaper and sanding the back, and then after it's all done here, we will move on to priming. Okay, after that, I'm just hitting with a generous coat of filler primer here. Then after I let that dry for at least a day or a week, I usually let them pile up as you see here. Just hitting it with some 200 grit sandpaper before we move on to the next prime. Next, just another coat of filler primer here. I usually go pretty thick with this one. And you want to make sure you get all the overhangs in the back. Then after that dries for at least a day, just start wet sanding, which is still my favorite part. Just want to make sure you get it all smooth all the way across. If not, it'll definitely show up on your final coat of paint. After that, just rinse it off and let it dry. Then start hitting it with the base coat, which in this case would be this green. Really like this green color. Then usually with the gloss paint, I let it dry at least a week before I move on. Then I'll do some masking. Here we're adding the silver to the visor and the mouth plate. I usually do 1 or 2 coats of silver. Sometimes the bottom coat can shine through. And then I found it easier to hand paint in the black areas here on these Ryusoulger helmets than masking and trying to get that to work. So I'm just doing it here. It takes 1 or 2 coats, but it's worth the time and just a little bit of patience, and it looks good. I usually use a heat gun in between coats to speed it up. After that, I must have not got a video of me painting the eyes, but I painted the eyes with the yellow acrylic as well. Takes a few coats. But then after that, just moving on to the clear coat here. I like to do usually 2 to 3 thick coats, so it really looks like there's a nice shiny gloss over everything. Okay, here I'm starting to make the visor for the helmet. I just use masking tape here to make a template of what I'm looking for, trace it out, and then I'll take that tape, put it on the PETG I use, cut it out, make sure it fits. Then if they're symmetrical, you can flip it and use it on the opposite side like I do here. I just want to carry on and do that for the other sections of this visor. These Ryusoulger ones are a little different when they have like kind of sort of sections. You could do one big piece the whole way across, but it won't fit as nice unless it's like vacuum formed you have. I tried that with my first Ryusoulger helmet I did. I did a Ryusoulger red, and it doesn't look near as good as the last ones I've been doing like this. So I suggest you doing individual visor pieces for the slots here. Next, just got to add the magnets and elastic. These magnets I made, they're just the little pieces of foam floor mats. The puzzle pieces, I just cut, put magnets in them, and glue them inside here on the sides. They hold well enough. And then the elastic, I just do 2 pieces across the top of the helmet. And one of these days, I'm going to start adding foam to my helmets. I keep meaning to buy some upholstery foam so they fit nicer, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. Alright, that is Dino Fury Green finished, or Ryusoulger Green, whatever you prefer. Dino Fury is on its 5th episode now, I believe, so I don't think the Green Ranger's in it yet. As you saw, this was split in half in the front. I think it turned out pretty well. You can still see a little bit. I should have sanded a little better here, but other than that, I think if anything, it shows that you can save a felt print if it's not super bad, or if you don't want to waste plastic and your quality control for yourself is maybe a little lower, or you honestly, if I sanded this a little better, you probably couldn't even tell unless I told you. Actually, you probably still can't really tell. But loving this helmet. This is the last of the main team I needed to make. Gold's the only one I've left. I have a file for it, but it's a really weird helmet, so I'm going to have to slice it to get it fit in my print bed. But that's for another time. I think next I'm going to start adding some foam inside these. That's the only thing I haven't really done with any of these, is put foam in them so they fit better. I do have some, I believe they're called like MMA headgear pads I put in when I want to wear one that I don't want it to move and fit snug. But I don't have anything like permanently added into these. I know people just glue like upholstery foam and stuff in it, so that's on my to-do list. I just gotta get some upholstery foam, and I keep putting it off and putting it off, and one of these days I'm just gonna have to get it. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or any helmets you'd like me to try to do, I got a good bit in the works. If you follow my Instagram, you can probably see that. So it might take me a little bit to get to it, but I will get to it, unless I already have it. But some of these could be redone. Some of them are from a long time ago when I first started this, and they don't look half as good as something like this. But yeah, if you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, or comment down below, and I'll try to get to you. But yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.